Well, today finds me in Washington County, Indiana. I recently did an adventure to the Tunnel Mill in Jennings County, about 50 miles east of here. And today finds me at the Cave River Valley State Natural Area. This is run by the state of Indiana, as the sign indicates. There's a very similar geology to that of Spring Mill State Park, but this is lesser known, so that's why I'm here. This area of Indiana is known for its limestone caves and sinkholes. And this is like the Swiss cheese of bedrock. It's full of holes, and the water can find its way underground and stay underground for miles. And many of these underground streams reemerge down the hill from where I'm standing right now. There's a sinkhole right by the parking lot here. I'm going to go down there and just take a quick peek inside that. And then we're going to start our hike. This is about a 3-mile loop back here. I don't have the trail map available, but I do have it called up on my smartphone so we can chart our progress with the All Trails app as we do this hike. Got a little coating of snow here, makes it a little easier to see some of the features in the ground. The sinkholes are a little easier to see when they're highlighted by some fresh snow. You might find some animal tracks, and this is a great place for wildlife as well. So let's start our hike to the Cave River Valley in Washington County, Indiana. And just below the entrance gate to this park, there's an old gravel road that actually continues onto this property. This was privately owned in the not too distant past. We've got a sinkhole to our right and one to our left that actually is got a very obvious entrance to these underground caves. And there's lots of them in this park. You need permits to go in some of them, and some of them are not open to the public at all. We're heading down towards this sinkhole. I'll pause just for a second. We'll resume when we get a little closer. So again, this natural snowfall, just enough to highlight the obvious sinkhole here. If this were all brown leaves and brown dirt, it may not be so obvious that this is a hole in the ground, but it is. And the reason we have sinkholes in this area is the limestone can be dissolved by the weak acids found in rainwater. And limestone is common in southern Indiana, where we are today, and also in parts of central and western Kentucky. And there are many well-known caves in this area. So here's our sinkhole, and I can't really get it to show up in the video, but it's so cold and dry today. It's about 15 degrees outside that this actually, there's some steam coming out of this constant temperature of the underground caverns here, which is 54 degrees. So it's like seeing your breath on a cold day. Again, it's not obvious, but it is there if you were to come here and look yourself. Let's continue down the trail and see what we can find. And about 10 minutes into our hike in the Cave River Valley, it was pretty much gravel road at this point, and we are going downhill from the parking area. And as you come down the gravel road, there's a fork, and I just took the left-hand fork, and we're heading down a pretty steep hill here. This is a cedar glade here. These eastern red cedars often grow in these limestone soils. So that's an indication that, you know, we're in cave country. And I'm listening real closely, and I think I can hear gushing water coming out of one of the entrances of these caves. It could be the wind playing tricks with me, but I'm pretty sure I can hear it when I take the time and cup my ears. So let's go down this hill and see what is down here. And sure enough, the sound of running water is what we heard a few minutes ago coming down the hill. And the gravel road ends, and you have to do some stream crossings back here. There's plenty of stepping stones, but on a cold day you need to be extra careful. Good news is the water isn't that cold. Let's take a look what's right here at the bottom of the hill. When the gravel road ends, it leads you to the ruins, and I believe this is one of the grist mills. I know this property was used after that for campgrounds and some other things. But looking at this stonework here, folks, I think this may have been the original grist mill site. There's a cave right up the holler here. We're going to go look at where the water comes gushing out. And the water flows year-round enough that you could use that falling water to turn a water wheel and grind corn. So we've got some quarried stone here, but it's not mortared together as far as I can tell. At least the mortar's all gone now. So that I'm going to have to just make the assumption this is the ruins of the grist mill, and if it isn't, there was a grist mill in this area, and the falling water that's coming out of this cave right up the holler here is what powered that grist mill. So let's go up the hollow and take a look. And the state of Indiana has installed quite a few interpretive signs on this hike. We've got one here explaining the people that did the milling at the grist mill in this area. And this is how a grist mill would look with that water wheel providing the power to turn the millstones. And here's our source of the flowing and falling water to turn that water wheel. I'm coming up this trail, and we can hear and see the water gushing out from underground. I'm going to pause for just a minute and we'll take a closer look at this underground river emerging here down at the bottom of this hollow. And we're getting a little closer to the entrance to this underground river, or the exit from the underground river. And I'm making my way, being careful on these rocks. And I am always amazed at what I can find on these hikes. It's completely unexpected. If anybody had told me that I would have found a snapping turtle on a 15-degree day in late December, I wouldn't have believed them. Folks, this is a snapping turtle. And he is a small one. He's only maybe 4 inches long. And the reason he is still alive and not dead is the water gushing out of this cave is actually quite warm. 54 degrees year-round, that's warm enough to keep a snapping turtle, content. They like it warmer, I'm sure, since they're cold-blooded. But I'm going to assume this guy is alive. I'm not going to prod him. I'm not going to poke at him. I have to assume that he's alive, and I don't want to bother him because they can bite even the small ones. So we're going to go up just a little closer and look at the actual exit to this underground river. Well, if you're seeing fog in this video, it's not your eyes playing tricks on you. Again, this 54-degree water coming out of this underground river here is much warmer than the surrounding air on a cold winter's day. So it's actually giving off steam. And that's why our friend the snapping turtle was still able to move around. What he was doing on a stream like this, I have no idea, because usually they're in slower moving bodies of water. But that being said, he was there. And, we're not far from where I parked. It's only about a 15-20 minute walk. I do have the All Trails app here that tracks my location. There was no map available of this property from the state of Indiana. But here's my All Trails app. It's a little hard to see with the reflection. The black dot is the parking lot. And we basically went north along that red line and then turned around and went southwest to the left-hand fork. And the blue dot is my current location. So the sinkhole that we first observed was right next to the parking lot, those little depression contours there. Straight north of the parking lot was the sinkhole we first observed. And all these sinkholes around here, the Swiss cheese feeds these underground streams, and this underground stream may come from many miles away before it reemerges here. So this is, again, there's a lot of elevation drop here, so we have no trouble running a water wheel off the falling water coming from this underground stream. And after leaving the underground river and exit there, where the river comes out from underground, I just kept turning left. This does make a loop. And past the remains of that grist mill that I filmed a few minutes ago. And followed a trail. Really, I'm only a couple hundred feet from that underground river and where the turtle was. And sure enough, there's another cave here. This one doesn't have quite as much water coming out of it, but it's does have some water coming out. So this doesn't collect as much water and cover. Maybe this underground stream doesn't come quite as far as that other one. But we can really get up close to this one. There aren't as many rocks and rapids and waterfalls to get around. So let's pause for a minute and go look at the inside of this entrance here and see more about this limestone. And there's plenty of signs at this park asking you not to enter the caves without a permit and not to enter them at all during the winter months when the Indiana bats are hibernating. Most animals in nature live on a very lean budget as far as energy reserves go, so they don't want them to be disturbed during their hibernation season, have to burn extra calories to avoid you. Those fat reserves are limited, and they can starve or perish because of lack of calories available to them, because they were trying to avoid you in a cave during the winter months. So the state of Indiana regulates that and issues permits on some of the caves on this property, and some of them are closed to protect the Indiana bats year-round. Well, this is, again, I don't have an official map with names of these caves or, much about them. So we're just going to look and see what's here. We can come up with our own name, maybe. It's a very large cave. You can walk right in it. Don't know how far back it goes before you have to start crawling and spelunking, but at this point you could walk into this entrance here without disturbing the bats, because they hibernate much further back in the cave. And you could at least get an idea of what the exit of a cave looks like. So let's get just a little closer here and we'll take a better look. And this is about as far as I need to go to satisfy my curiosity. I'm looking at the gray color of this limestone. Don't know how many fossils are in this particular unit. This is the same unit that forms Mammoth Cave, Wyandotte Cave, and many other caves, basically from Bloomington, Indiana, south through the Corydon and Salem areas and Bedford areas of Indiana, right across the Ohio River to the Mammoth Cave area, and all the way down to Bowling Green, Kentucky. This same unit of limestone is exposed almost continuously and provides a natural wonderland. It just really is neat to look at. It's Mississippian geological period. It's also exposed in eastern Kentucky in places at Carter Caves and in the Rock Castle River area. There's also some exposures of this limestone. So this is one of the major scenic rock units in the Mid-Ohio Valley and Upper Ohio Valley, and just nice to have places that are this interesting to look at. So we'll just look at the texture of these rocks and the grays and the browns and listen to the sound of the flowing water. And I'm not seeing that fog coming off this water here. Obviously it doesn't have as much volume, and maybe this water hasn't been underground as long to warm up. So that's what we got here, and I'm going to continue with this hike. And let's just take a few minutes, folks. We've come up the hill from the caves and the underground river, and there's some ridge walking here, and these are good woods. I mean, these parks have more to offer than just the obvious features that you read about. Sometimes there's just really good woods for learning trees, and there's no invasive plants here, which really make it hard to learn what's native to this part of the world. And north meets south in southern Indiana. And there's trees here that you don't find in northern Indiana and northern Ohio. Persimmon is common around here. I haven't found any on this hike yet, but I have found what's called post oak, which looks very similar to white oak, and we've got both of them growing on this ridge here. And honestly, without the leaves, I'm not sure if I can tell them apart. We've got both sets of leaves on the ground. I believe what's right here is a post oak. I've got a leaf here that resembles that of a post oak. They're a little bigger than white oak, and the shape is slightly different. The bark is almost identical, maybe a little chunkier and a little more furrowed than the white oak, which I believe this one is behind it. I've got several clips, or one clip on post oak that I did on the Barking Up the Right Tree channel this year, and I've got a clip on white oak with some comparisons to bur oak and chinkapin oak. You want to learn your oaks, this is a good park to do it. You probably got 5 or 6 species back here. I got some post oak leaves that I pulled out of the leaf litter here. And this one's quite large, so they tend to be larger than the white oak leaves. And I'm going to unfurl it here, if it will allow me. It's a little curled up here, but if we unfurl it, this post oak resembles a white oak, but it's not as intimately cut up. It does have the rounded lobes. But one way you can remember post oak is it rhymes with, guest commentator, tell us what it rhymes with. A ghost. So it looks like a ghost with the head of the ghost right here and the 2 arms coming out. And the white oak leaf, got one right here. It's a similar color, but the notches come a lot further back towards the mid vein. Again, this isn't the best time of year to learn leaves, but they're on the ground here, and the trees are very similar. And looking for those little differences is how you tell them apart. But this is good post oak habitat. It's a dry hillside. Tends to grow in areas that are drier soils. The video I did on the post oak showed one of the parks where I filmed it was an abandoned prairie, or a prairie that was going back to woods, and also up on West Rock Ridge in Connecticut, which is an ancient lava flow. We'll continue on this hike in just a minute. And I've come probably 15-20 minutes downstream from the entrance of the exit of the Cave River stream, Cave Valley stream, and the grist mill, and followed some trails that loop around, but then got on some unofficial trails and some deer paths. I'm looking up at some nice beautiful sycamores backlit against the blue winter sky, and just seeing what there's to see. The obvious trail here, I wouldn't think is 3 miles long. It says it is. The one that I could see that was an obvious loop was maybe half that. And then some spur trails going off, but none marked and none mapped. The All Trails app shows where people have gone, but it is not documented by any governing agency. So it's just All Trails' best guess as to what people have done here. But I have come downstream, probably a quarter to a half a mile. And I'm finding some neat icicles here. And just some beautiful bedrock ledges. And this will be all I'm going to try to do on this hike today for videos. We did do that little spur up that one ridge with the white and post oak trees. And this is good woods. It's pretty easy to navigate in the wintertime. Summertime, probably a little more overgrown. Copperhead country around here for sure. So if you're going to go off trail in the summer, you want to take the proper precautions. I don't know how common they are, but they are in this area, and they do tend to make their dens on these south facing ridges like I'm looking at right here. So take the proper precautions. If you stay on the main trails, I don't think we'll be much concern. And I did mention when I talked about that post oak that north meets south here, I think we got a persimmon tree here. And I can't tell for sure because all I got is the bark. And other trees can get this chunky bark too, but this is pretty doggone chunky to be a black oak. I'm fairly certain this is a persimmon tree. Come back here in the late fall and you'll find the fruits on the ground. And they're very common in southern Indiana, but not anywhere else in Indiana. So just a reminder that north does meet south here, and lots of variety because of that.